Good morning and welcome to this episode of Good Morning KU Sports. And I'm Ryan, and sadly today is our last show of the year. We'll be back again in mid-January, which means our show today is full of some of the best sports content there is to offer. To start off our broadcast, Will will be briefing us on all the recent sports news this week. Next, we'll jump to Olivier, who has a segment about the NBA and how teams in the league are doing. After that, we'll head to Pick 'em with Greenwald with Luke and Eli. We'll then head to Isabel, who will be sharing information about KU basketball and what the games and standings look like at the end of the year and into January. After that, Colton will talk about KU volleyball and their opening game in Horish Family Arena for the NCAA tournament. Sam will then be back with the weather. Let's head over to Will for all the news in sports.
Thank you, Ryan. We're going to check out some news from around the sports world. First of all, KU volleyball beat Omaha in 3 sets last night, and Colton will have a little more on that later in the show. For some more KU news, KU football offensive coordinator Andy Kotonicki has agreed to become the offensive coordinator at Penn State. Coach K was praised for his creative play calling, which included many Wildcat formations, and he led KU to have a top 10 rushing attack this season. This will be the first time coaching under someone other than Lance Leipold since 2012 when he was the offensive coordinator at the Division II University of Mary. We here at Good Morning KU Sports wish Coach K the best at Penn State and at any future endeavors. The 5th edition of the College Football Playoff Rankings have been released, and there are a couple notable changes. The biggest of which is the fact that Ohio State slid from number 2 to number 6 after a loss to Michigan last week. This caused Florida State to move up into the number 4 slot after taking care of business against Florida. This should be an exciting conference championship week, with number 5 Oregon taking on number 3 Washington in the final Pac-12 championship game. Number 8 Alabama and number 1 Georgia will also be squaring off in the SEC championship game. The winners of each of these games will most likely earn a spot in the playoff. That's enough for me. Let's send it to Olivier, who's got the latest in the NBA.
With the quarterfinal matchup set for the NBA's first in-season tournament, let's preview the games. In the first game, the Celtics will travel to play the Pacers. Boston is off to the best start in the league, with their record being 14-4. And in their only game against the Pacers so far, they won by a whopping 51 points. Acquiring Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis has paid off so far. Boston's starting 5 has the highest plus-minus in the league. If Joe Mazzulla shortens his rotation for the tournament, Boston is going to be that much harder to beat. If Indiana can pull off an upset, though, it'll be because of Tyrese Haliburton. Haliburton leads the league in assists at nearly 12 a game to go along with 26 points on a 50-40-90 shooting split. In Game 2, the Pelicans will see the Sacramento Kings. These are 2 deep, young teams that stand to learn a lot from games that should have higher stakes. The Pelicans are 2-0 against the Kings so far this season, but both those games were in New Orleans. Sacramento has one of the best home court advantages in the NBA, and the Kings are 5-1 at home this season. The Kings' defense has shown some improvement from last year, but they'll be tested by the Pelicans' great front court players. Expect Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram to be aggressive getting to the basket. CJ McCollum is also likely to return for the Pels, which should be a big boost for their offense. The Kings will need a big game from De'Aaron Fox to get the win. In Game 3, the Knicks will go to Milwaukee. The Bucks haven't been the same strong defensive team this year after they traded for Damian Lillard, but they're still finding ways to win games. They're 10-3 this year in games decided by single digits, which is exactly the kind of closing ability the Bucks needed. With Dame, the Bucks finally have someone they can trust to handle the ball and create their own shot down the stretch. Jalen Brunson had 45 for the Knicks in their first matchup against the Bucks this year, and he could feast versus Milwaukee's bad perimeter defense again. In the last quarterfinal game, the Suns will play at the Lakers. The Lakers played fantastic in their 4 group games, winning all 4 with a plus 76 point differential, by far the best in the league. Both teams will be without key players for the tournament, as the Lakers are missing Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, and Jared Vanderbilt, and the Suns are still without their 3rd star, Bradley Beal. Even in old age, KD and LeBron are still carrying the load for their teams, and it'll be great to see them go back and forth. Now, it's time for Pick 'em with Greenwald. Eli and Luke, what games do you have for us this week?
Thanks, Olivier. We sure have some fun picks for you this week. This is our last episode of the year for not only, or semester, I should say, for not only GMKUSports, but with Greenwald. So let's get right into the picks for NFL Week 13. All right, Luke, Broncos at Houston. And if you were to tell me at the beginning of the year this would be a game that we'd be covering, I would have called you nuts. I mean, the Broncos started 1-5, and the Texans nobody expected them to be like this year, and they're fighting for a playoff spot. So, Luke, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, everyone thought at the beginning of the season here that the Broncos were going to have another really bad season just like last one, but I mean, Russell Wilson and the offense just turned that around. They are now 5-5, looking to extend that to 6-5 this weekend, and I think it's going to be a close game. They're on the road at Texas. CJ Stroud has been looking really good. But this Broncos offense has really stepped up with guys like Courtland Sutton making insane touchdown catches to keep games alive. And at the end of the day, I think it'll be a high-scoring, close game with the Broncos on top.
Yeah, you like Denver. I like the Texans in this game. This year, like I said, if you were to say that the Texans would be fighting for a playoff spot and Denver would be fighting for a playoff spot, I would have called you nuts. I mean, that's the Sean Payton effect for Denver. They started 1-5, and now they're fighting for a playoff spot. Like I said, that's Sean Payton able to turn things around. Hall of Fame coach, one of the greatest coaches of our generation. And meanwhile, in Houston, D'Amico Ryans, you see that defense completely turn around. But the number one story out of there is C.J. Stroud. I mean, when was the last time an Ohio State quarterback was any good in the pros, right? And he's just been probably Rookie of the Year so far this year. He's been fantastic out of Houston. So I do like the Texans in this game. I think it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game, but I like Houston. Next, we travel to Louisiana we got the Saints at home against Detroit. What do you think about this game, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, the Lions started off the season really strong, and then they went a bit shaky here and there. I mean, the last game against Green Bay was a tough loss, but I think the Lions will come out on top on this one. Most likely going to be a close game. I mean, the Saints' defense has really stepped up, but one thing that needs to be fixed is Jared Goff's turnover problem. I mean, he had 3 fumbles in the last game that were all lost and 3 interceptions in their game against the Bears. And he said himself that he's going to continue to make these risky throws because he wants to be aggressive, and those throws will win games. And, I mean, they have escaped with a few wins, but this one's going to be close. I think that the Lions will come out on top, but, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. I do think the Lions are going to win this game, but a lot closer than people think. I mean, Jared Goff, turnover problem. He fumbled 3 times against the Packers and threw 3 interceptions against the Bears. They lost to the Packers and barely squeaked out a win against Chicago, who are one of the worst teams in the NFL. So the Saints' defense is good, and based on the way the Lions were performing earlier in the season, I'd say the Lions are going to win this game, no doubt. But now, based on the way that their offense has been performing the past couple weeks, the Saints definitely got a chance, especially with that pretty high-powered defense. Lions, like I said, offense one of the best in football. They should win this game, but turnovers, man. If the Saints can cause turnovers, they're going to be right in this ballgame. All right. The game everybody's waiting for, one of the best matchups of the NFL season, for sure, not even so far, but probably at the end of the year, this is going to be one of the best matchups all year. San Francisco in Philly against the Eagles. What do you think about this ballgame, Luke?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I have the Niners for this one. I know they're 8-3 versus the 10-1 Eagles, traveling to Philly for this game, but the Niners have really turned their season around after that 3-loss streak and have been looking nothing but strong here. I expect it to obviously be a very close game. Both have insane defense and offense numbers that they're putting up. So, I mean, this is just going to be another NFC Championship rematch here with the 49ers looking to get revenge from last year. But, yeah, I think guys are just going to need to step up in this game, whether that's Brock Purdy throwing no turnovers. He's had a little struggle with that here and there. But, yeah, I think the 49ers will come out on top in what will be a very good game.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be definitely a good game, but I do like the Eagles in this game. I think the Eagles at the end of the year are going to win the Super Bowl. I think they're the future Super Bowl champions. I think they're the best team in the NFL. But, it's definitely going to be a good game. The Niners are 3rd in defensive efficiency, and the Eagles are 9th. Offensive efficiency, and the Eagles are 9th. So 2 very high-powered offenses. But something the Niners have going for them is they have the fewest points per game allowed out of all teams in the NFL. One of the best defenses in football. The reason I like the Eagles is just, Jalen Hurts, knee is healthy. That dual threat both on the ground and in the air. And on top of that, they just beat Kansas City a couple weeks ago, which, nobody thought they were going to do. I did pick the Eagles, but most people didn't think they were going to win that ball game. It was on Sunday night here in KC. So that was a huge, huge win, upset. And like I said, I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFL. I do expect this to be a very, 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 very good game, very close game, but I like Philly. All right, thank you all for watching Picking with Greenwald this whole semester. I'm back next semester, but after a short break, Isabel will be back with a season preview into the future of KU basketball.
Welcome back from the short break. I'm Isabel, here with your look into the rest of the year for Jayhawk basketball. The number 5 Kansas Jayhawks take on reigning champions UConn tonight at Allen Fieldhouse, and it's going to be a great game. Not only is UConn coming into the Fog as the first non-conference team to be ranked higher than Kansas since 2011, they're currently on a 7-game win streak to start the season, and they haven't lost since March 17th. They won their way through March Madness, and the steam hasn't stopped yet. The Jayhawks are looking to change that, but it won't be an easy game. Hunter Dickinson has stepped up into his role and will be a key player in tonight's game. He leads Kansas in both points with 21.7 and rebounds at 12.7 per game. Kevin McCullough has been able to work seamlessly with Dickinson as he averages 18.1 points and 7.3 rebounds. McCullough has also had 2 triple-doubles back-to-back this year. He is only the 3rd Jayhawk to ever do so. One big question going into tonight's game is, can DeJuan Harris show up like he did against Kentucky, where he scored 23 points? In the following games, he's only seen single digits in scoring, but we've seen he can drain it when he wants to. If the Jayhawks want to win another championship, the starting 5 might need some help. If their bench can step up and the players can play with their heart and intensity for all 40 minutes, there's no doubt Kansas can take it. Good news is they are undefeated in Allen Fieldhouse so far this season and have a very clear home court advantage, considering students have been camping for at least the past 2 days. With all that being said, UConn has struggled defensively, and Kansas has struggled defensively, and UConn winning all their games this season by an average of 28 points means they won't go down without a fight. Kansas almost faced an upset earlier this week against Eastern Illinois, and rebounds played the biggest part. Dickinson had 13 rebounds, while the rest of the team together only had 6. That can't happen again tonight. UConn knows how to score, and Cam Spencer is a big part of that, averaging 16.3 points per game. So far this season, Kansas has shown they can either win games by 20 points or barely scraping by. UConn has never defeated Kansas and have only seen them 3 times, but tonight's matchup is going to be a good one. This rare matchup of the past 2 national champions is set to tip off here in Lawrence tonight at 8 p.m. inside Allen Fieldhouse. Although there might be less on the line for Kansas, they're looking to prove they belong higher in the rankings and can take on good teams. Not only that, but they're currently 10-1 against top 5 ranked teams in Allen Fieldhouse and would like to keep it that way. Both teams are going to bring it, and no matter what, it's going to be a thrilling game. I can't wait to see what the Jayhawks and the crowd bring. That's all I have for KU basketball today. Let's go over to Colton, who is covering KU volleyball.
Thanks, Isabel. Your Kansas Jayhawk volleyball team secured its 2nd straight trip to the NCAA Division I volleyball tournament this year, and this year they came as a number 4 seed. The Jayhawks came into the tournament with a 24-5 record, which was one of their best records in the past 10 years. There are multiple Jayhawks who had individual achievements this year, as well as Reagan Cooper, Cameron Turner, and Aya El Nadi all earned first-team All-Big 12 honors. London Davis received All-Big 12 second-team honors, and Reagan Burns was on the All-Big 12 rookie team. Highlighting the awards, though, was Coach Bouchard, who won Big 12 Coach of the Year for the 5th time in his career. The Jayhawks impressed everyone and exceeded all expectations this season, as they were projected to be in the bottom of the Big 12 conference this season. The Lady Jayhawks started their postseason run last night against Omaha, who they previously played earlier this season. Reagan Cooper and the Jayhawks dominated the first 2 sets, winning 25-16 and 25-19. The 3rd set was an all-timer, as the Jayhawks came back from 5 points to tie the set at 19-19. After the 5-point run, Kansas and Omaha went back and forth, and the set came to a close with an Omaha net violation. Kansas came out on top 27-25. Kansas moved on to the second round for the second time in 2 years, and the Jayhawks have not been to the third round in 7 years, but will hopefully make an appearance this year. The Lady Jayhawks take on Penn State in the second round in what will be one of the toughest matchups this season. Kansas will have home court advantage as Penn State is a 5 seed, and the game will start at 5:30 p.m. and it should be a great match. That's all I have for you today for the volleyball updates, and after a short break, we'll go to Sam, who will share what the weather is looking like for sports this weekend.
Skip the lines. Download the Grubhub app today.
From adversity, we rose. We made history and became pioneers, voyagers, champions, Jayhawks. And when our chant rises, haunting and hallowed, Jayhawks are telling the world what's near. Victory.
Welcome back. And now looking at the Oriad Tower cam that is now pointed a little bit to the south of what it used to be now, looking straight over campus. As you can see the overcast skies that we have here. And there was some mist and drizzle this morning, and that is all due to a plethora of systems are moving through right now. We're sitting at 37 degrees, and later today, a chance for a wintry mix. And let's look at the radar right now, as there is a good bit of snow over by Salina, down toward McPherson as well. Whereas here in Lawrence, we do have some mist that is not quite showing up on radar, but as the day goes on, this snow will start to make its way over to the east. Now, I'm not sure quite if it'll be rain or snow or a mix when it gets here, but looking hour by hour, at 11 o'clock, all the precipitation is south of Manhattan at that time. Moving on to 12, it approaches Topeka, and now here at Lawrence, might see some rainfall starting at around the lunch hour. And as the afternoon goes on, around 1 o'clock, still be mostly rainfall, I expect. As 2 to 3 o'clock comes along, that's when the conversion to snow could occur. Then as the evening approaches, all the rain and snow moves off to the northeast. But the good news is, this all moves out to the area for the big games tonight. First is volleyball, that game at 5:30 against Penn State. Should be overcast skies in the low 30s, and the same for the basketball game tipping off at 8 o'clock. Again with the low 30s, definitely going to want that jacket afterwards. And for the weekend, after today, it really becomes nice. Tomorrow and Sunday back up into the 40s, around 42 Saturday and then 48 on Sunday. And the men's basketball team back in action on Tuesday against UMKC. It'll be 44 before that game. It'll be around 39 at tip-off before dropping down into the 30s towards the end of that one. For the other sports in action the next week, the only one I have some concerns about is the track and field today, as that wintry mix will be around this afternoon. On the 7-day forecast, today had that wintry mix, but then after that, it becomes just spectacular as you get into the 50s for the start of next week, then maybe even get up in the mid-60s for the end and for Thursday, and then stop day probably be around in about the low 60s as well. Over to you, Ryan.
Thank you for watching this episode of Good Morning KU Sports. We have had a great semester so far making and producing sports content for you, and we aren't done yet. We'll be back next semester with our regular shows. Until then, watch Playmakers today at noon and enjoy the rest of your year and holidays. Rock Chalk.
You're good.